The screaming came first, then the dust, then the smell of burning rubber and crushed rock. President Ibrahim Traoré stood frozen as his soldiers dragged the last man out of the collapsed tunnel. The man's skin was dry and cracked like broken ground. His eyes blinked slowly, full of pain and dust. He wasn't from Burkina Faso. He was from Niger. One of 300 men, migrants, trapped and worked like animals inside a gold mine run by a European company. The men had been living underground, sleeping beside machines, eating once a day. No names, no ID cards, no salaries, just sweat, fear, and the sound of drills all day and all night. They weren't miners. They were slaves. The mine was hidden deep in the forest, far from cities, cameras, and questions. But now it was exposed. The truth had crawled out of the ground, gasping for air. A soldier ran to Ibrahim, breathing hard, holding a dirty folder. "Mr. President, we found this in the vault." Inside were papers, contracts, bank receipts, signatures. One of the names made Ibrahim's heart stop. It was someone he trusted, someone in his own government, someone close. Ibrahim stared at the name. The folder shook in his hands. Behind him, the men from the mine lay on the ground, some crying, some silent, some already dead. And Ibrahim knew this was not just about gold. This was war. 6 months earlier, the morning sun had just begun to stretch across Ouagadougou. The streets were waking up. Women were sweeping dust in front of shops. Children were running with sticks and tires. Radios played music and news. The air was warm, almost calm. But Ibrahim Traoré was not calm. In the palace, he was sitting with his top ministers. A serious meeting. He had received reports, whispers, really, that foreign mining companies were doing things they weren't supposed to. "Sir, it's just rumors," one minister had said. No evidence. But Ibrahim didn't trust that. Burkina Faso had many gold mines. Some were owned by the government, but most were run by companies from Europe. They promised jobs and growth. But villages near those mines stayed poor. Rivers dried up. Children coughed from dust. And the money? It never stayed in the country. Ibrahim had just come into power. Young, bold, not afraid. He spoke with fire. He wanted to make things better. For real. Not with papers. Not with pretty speeches. With action. "We need to check these mines ourselves," Ibrahim said. No warning. No visits from ministers. Just us. Everyone in the room went quiet. Then he stood up. "I want to see what they're hiding." A week later, Ibrahim left the capital with a small team. No big parade. No cameras. Just a convoy of old trucks and a group of trusted soldiers. They dressed like regular workers, even carried shovels. No one would know it was the president on the road. They drove for hours, then days, through dry lands, over shaky bridges, past dusty towns. Sometimes they were greeted with cheers, other times with long, suspicious stares. Finally, they reached a place that wasn't on any map. A thick forest with only one broken road leading into it. At the end of that road, a mine. From the outside, it looked quiet, but there were fences, guards, cameras. Ibrahim's heart beat faster. "Let's go," he said. They walked past the first gate, pretending to be workers. But soon, something didn't feel right. Inside, there was no talking, no music, no laughter, just the sound of machines and pain. They saw a group of men digging under the hot sun. Their backs bent, their hands swollen, their faces empty. None of them looked local. One man dropped his tool. A guard shouted. The man tried to stand but fell. Ibrahim clenched his fists. Something is very wrong here. That night, after hiding and watching, Ibrahim and his team made a move. They took down the guards quietly, entered the main building. That's when they found the tunnel. It went deep underground, very deep, and the deeper they went, the more they saw. Hundreds of men, barely alive, working in shifts. No sunlight, no clean water. Some hadn't seen the outside in months. They didn't speak much, just stared, scared. One man whispered, "They told us this would be work. We didn't know it was a prison." Ibrahim's eyes filled with tears. He looked around. Wires, machines, tools, gold dust. So much gold, and none of it for the people. He ordered the mine shut down immediately. Soldiers helped carry the weak to safety. Tents were set up. Water and food were brought in. Medics rushed to help, but it wasn't over. In a sealed metal room at the edge of the mine, Ibrahim's team found records. Proof, company documents, names of the European managers, shipments, money sent out of the country, and at the bottom, a contract, stamped, signed, by someone in his own cabinet. A traitor. Ibrahim stared at the name for a long time. Suddenly the ground shook. A loud boom echoed through the trees. Explosion, a soldier shouted. Another tunnel has collapsed. Screams followed. Dust shot into the sky, and Ibrahim ran toward the sound, heart pounding. The ground shook again. Screams echoed through the trees. Smoke and dust rolled over the tents like a storm cloud. Move! Move! Ibrahim shouted, running toward the collapsed tunnel. Soldiers rushed beside him. Medics grabbed stretchers. People who were too weak to run crawled away, coughing. The blast had come from deep inside the mine, the same shaft where most of the workers had been rescued hours ago. But some are still down there. Helpers, inspectors, a few men who'd gone back to bring out the last survivors. Now it was rubble. Ibrahim reached the site, his boots sliding on loose gravel. The tunnel entrance was gone, swallowed by stone and smoke. Just minutes ago, it had been open. Now, it looked like the mouth of a beast that had finally closed. Was this an accident? A soldier asked, eyes wide. Ibrahim didn't answer. His gut told him this wasn't random. This was a message. Someone had set off that blast. Someone who didn't want the truth coming out. And Ibrahim was sure of one thing now. Whoever signed that contract, the traitor, knew this mine was dangerous. Knew it was illegal. Knew lives would be lost. And they didn't care. That night, under a sky full of restless stars, the camp around the mine was silent. The survivors slept in patches of grass, their dreams filled with darkness. Some cried out in their sleep. Others just lay still, eyes open, staring at nothing. Ibrahim sat near the fire, the folder of documents still in his hand. He had read the contract again and again. The signature belonged to Minister Kalgo, a man who smiled in every meeting, who clapped the loudest when Ibrahim gave speeches, who said things like, "We believe in the people," and "Africa must control her own gold." But now Ibrahim saw it clearly. Kalgo had sold them out, sold their country, sold their brothers, sold 300 lives for gold. "I trusted him," Ibrahim whispered. His bodyguard, Musa, sat beside him. He didn't speak much, just stared into the flames. After a while, Musa said, "What will you do?" Ibrahim didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I'll make sure the world hears what happened here, and I'll bring Kalgo to justice with my own hands." Back in the capital, things were already changing. News had spread like wildfire. Pictures of the rescued migrants, videos of the broken mine, whispers of the minister's name. Radio stations buzzed with questions. Who let this happen? Why didn't we know? Is our gold covered in blood? Some people marched in the streets. Others stayed home, afraid. The rich grew quiet. The poor grew angry. And in the middle of it all, Minister Kalgo gave a speech. He stood in front of cameras with a calm smile. "We are deeply saddened by the tragedy," he said. "But these rumors of illegal mining and migrant workers are being investigated. Lies." He acted innocent, like he didn't know. But he was scared. Ibrahim could see it in his eyes. Kalgo had friends in Europe. People with power. People who didn't want the mines exposed. If Kalgo went down, so would they. And so, Kalgo made his move. He called a secret meeting of the National Council. He told them that Ibrahim had gone too far. "He's destroying partnerships," Kalgo said. "Our economy will fall. Foreign aid is pulling back. We must act before it's too late." Some ministers nodded. Others looked unsure. But Kalgo was clever. He had planted seeds for months. Lies. Promises. Money. Then he said it. Ibrahim must be removed from office. At the mine, Ibrahim was still gathering evidence. He had called trusted journalists, filmed interviews with survivors. He wanted to show the world what slavery looked like in the modern day. But then Musa got a call. He listened, eyes hardening. When the call ended, he looked at Ibrahim. "They're planning something," he said. "Kalgo has called for a vote to remove you." Ibrahim stood still. He didn't look surprised, only tired. "We don't have time," Musa said. We must go back to Ouagadougou now. No, Ibrahim said. We can't stay here. No, he said again. We're not done here. Not yet. He pointed at the mine. There's still bodies under that rubble. Men who died working for nothing. I won't leave them behind. The next day, Ibrahim made a decision. He ordered every name in the contract to be read on national radio. Every partner, every company, every minister who looked the other way. He didn't wait for lawyers or judges. He wanted the people to hear it straight from him. Justice is not a speech, he said. It's action. He flew back to the capital that same night. The streets were tense. Soldiers lined the roads. The airport was half empty. Rumors flew like birds. Some saying Ibrahim was coming back with an army. Others saying he had fled. At the palace, Kalgo watched from a window. He called his guards. Block the gates, he ordered. Do not let him in. But it was too late. The people had already gathered outside. Thousands of them. Women, men, children, holding signs, singing, Ibrahim is our voice. No more gold for thieves. Burkina is not for sale. Kalgo stepped back from the window. For the first time, he looked afraid. Then a soldier ran into the room. Sir, we have a problem. Kalgo turned. The doors of the palace burst open, and there stood Ibrahim, calm, firm, and no longer alone. He was surrounded by dozos, the ancient hunters from the forests. They had come, dressed in leather, charms on their arms, weapons ready. The people outside roared. Kalgo's voice trembled. You can't just walk in here. But Ibrahim did. He walked straight up to him and dropped the folder on the floor. You signed this, he said. Now answer for it. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out. Everyone ducked. Screams filled the palace hall. One of Kalgo's men had fired and hit someone. Ibrahim turned fast. Musa had fallen, blood on his shirt. More soldiers pulled their guns. The room exploded into chaos. Mousa's body hit the marble floor with a loud thud. His eyes were wide open, his mouth slightly open like he had one last thing to say. Blood spread under him, thick and dark. No, Ibrahim shouted, dropping to his knees beside his friend. The palace erupted. Screams echoed through the halls. Soldiers pushed forward. Some pointed guns. Some shouted orders. But Ibrahim wasn't looking at them. He was looking at Musa, his oldest friend, his bodyguard, his brother. Gone. Ibrahim clenched his jaw. He didn't cry. Not yet. Not in front of them. He slowly stood up, face calm, but his eyes like burning coal. Kalgo tried to slip away through a side door, but the dozos, silent and watchful, blocked his path. They didn't move. They just stared at him, their faces hard as stone. Ibrahim looked around the room. You want war, he said, voice shaking with fire. You already started it. He raised his hand. Take him. Kalgo shouted. This is illegal. I'm a minister. You can't. But his voice was drowned out by the people chanting outside. Their voices poured through the broken palace windows like a flood. Justice. 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 Kalgo was dragged away. Ibrahim didn't speak again. He walked past everyone, blood on his boots, and left the palace. 2 days passed. Musa was buried in his hometown, beside the old baobab tree where he and Ibrahim had played as boys. Ibrahim gave no speech. He just stood at the grave for a long time, his hands behind his back, until the sun went down. Then, without saying a word, he got back in the truck and returned to the capital. That night, he sat alone in the office, staring at the folder again. The names, the companies, the lies, all of it. He thought of the 300 men. He thought of Musa. He thought of every promise he had made. And he knew it wasn't over. This wasn't just about gold anymore. This was about the soul of the country. The next morning, Ibrahim stood in front of the entire nation, on radio, on television, on loudspeakers in village squares. He wore simple clothes. No suit, no medals, just a red scarf around his neck, soaked once in the sweat of protest and now in the blood of a friend. My name is Ibrahim Traoré, he said. I am a son of this land, and I am tired of lies. He told the whole story. The mine, the migrants, the betrayal. He called out the European company by name. He listed every secret deal, every stolen dollar. He said the names out loud, each one a hammer hitting a wall of silence. Then he looked into the camera. To those who think we are weak, we are not. To those who think we will bow, we will not. He raised his fist. We will take back what is ours, and we will never sell our children's future for gold. The next weeks were fire. Calgo and 3 other ministers were arrested and put on public trial. People filled the streets, listening on radios, watching on screens. The courtroom was packed. The people wanted answers. Calgo tried to deny it all at first. Then the evidence came: contracts, bank transfers, voice recordings. His face changed, and when one of the rescued migrants stood in court and said, he knew, he saw us, and he left us there, the whole room fell into silence. Calgo hung his head. He was sentenced to life in prison. The others followed. Ibrahim didn't stop. He announced that every foreign mine would be audited, every contract rechecked. Any company found guilty would be removed, and their gold turned over to the people. No more secrets, he said. No more crumbs. He started the People's Gold Fund. For the first time, gold profits went into schools, hospitals, clean water, and village roads. And to honor the 300, he built a memorial beside the collapsed mine. A wall with every name engraved, those who had died and those who had survived. At the center stood a golden statue of a miner with his fist in the air. Children came to visit. They touched the names. They asked questions. They learned. But the world was watching. The European company, angry and embarrassed, threatened to sue. International papers called Ibrahim a troublemaker, a populist, even a dictator. Some foreign leaders sent warnings. If you keep pushing, one letter said, you will be alone. Ibrahim held a press conference. I'd rather be alone with my people than rich with thieves. The crowd behind him clapped and cheered. A woman stepped forward and handed him a small cloth bag. Inside were 2 gold coins. One for you, she said, and one for Musa. Months passed. Burkina Faso began to change. Slowly, but surely. Gold was no longer a curse. It was a tool. Villages that had been forgotten now had lights. Children who had no books now had libraries. The people stood taller, and they remembered. They remembered the men who died in the dark. They remembered the traders who tried to sell them. And they remembered the man who stood up and said, no more. One quiet evening, Ibrahim returned to the mine. Alone, he walked to the edge of the tunnel, now sealed and covered in flowers. He knelt down, placed one hand on the dirt. I kept my word, he whispered. Then he stood up. The wind blew through the trees. And somewhere, deep in the heart of the land, the ancestors smiled.